exciting episode here today for you in this beginning of Q4 2020 as we are looking towards the end of the year and are looking even further beyond towards 2021 and what the year ahead is going to hold for us. And particularly, we're going to be talking today about fintech and blockchain. These are two subjects we continually talk about here on VCTV and are bringing experts from around the world because so much is happening. As we spoke about last time around these topics, this is the first time and one of the best times to get into these industries because from a first-time perspective, the entire world is focused on upgrading their infrastructures around financial technologies. At the same time, countries, enterprise, and consumer applications are looking at how blockchain and distributed ledger technologies play a role, not just in their applications, but also in streamlining processes and so much more. Again, never been a better time than now, as so much is being upgraded. So if you've been thinking about this either from an investment perspective or from a building perspective, this is that time. And as I like to do on every edition of this show, there is a ton of headlines and a ton of big news out there happening right now. So just to run off a few big headlines, we had Venmo recently launched their very first credit card offering up to 3% cash back and rewards. That's a big game changer in the fintech space. You've also got Amazon entering a similar space, welcoming to the world Amazon One, letting you pay with your palm. So not your face, not your finger, but your whole palm. Ernst & Young has now released their very first business application or decentralized app, so DApp, on the Ethereum blockchain. Dapper Labs, who's been the original creators of CryptoKitties and now NBA's Top Shot, has also launched that out into the public, so out of beta, with Samsung Galaxy. And if you're not familiar, Samsung has been strategically partnering with many of the companies in the blockchain space to allow games onto their Galaxy store. Wonder where this is going. Wonder where they could be going and what they might be positioning for here. MetaMask, someone else who may have or may not have been working with Samsung, MetaMask, the browser wallet, has now exceeded over 1 million monthly active users. The country of Australia is looking to spend almost $600 million US on technology to boost the pandemic recovery for them. And blockchain is a very integral part of that. And because we're going to probably be talking about decentralized finance here a little later today, or also known as DeFi, we're sitting just over 10 billion. Just over $10 billion locked away in total value when last May, excuse me, not last May, May in general, we were only at 1 billion. What does that mean? Why is that important? Why is all of this interesting and big deals for you as investors and for our audience? It's because this is the time. And we've brought some of the best and the brightest from around the world to share their thoughts and insights with you about these technologies, these industries, and where these are happening around the world. So thank you so much, audience, for tuning in. If you like what you hear today, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up, reach out if you'd like to be on a show like today. And entrepreneurs, you've got less than 90 days, almost 87 at this point, maybe a little bit less, before the end of the year. You need to be out there fundraising, you need to be out there selling your product, your service. You need to be out there in front of your customers. We have a virtual stage here at VCTV just for you to get up on and pitch us as investors focused on your area of industry, to give you real-time feedback and start beginning to build a relationship together on where we can help you and your company, and also be able to pitch our live audience as well. So do reach out to the LATOKEN team and or myself, and we'll find the right spot for you. And with that, a big thank you to the LATOKEN team and to Emmanuel for making VCTV possible every single day. With that, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Let's go ahead and get started. First, I'd love to welcome Joris. You are in the top spot today. Welcome back to the show. Also, creator of the Cafe Note, something we will get into in a little bit. But if you can, a little introduction and background for everybody, please.
Yes. Hey, hi, everyone. Thank you, Kyle. So that is a very exciting day. I'm really happy to be here today to discuss about this amazing moment that we are living with the COVID and the pandemic, and how we can whole move to a whole new world or new capitalism, especially a stakeholder-centric one. And I will be very happy to present what we can do with Fairmint and to react whenever we need to always like push this idea of stakeholder-centric capitalism. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, welcome back to the show. Love the background. Glad that you took the
Thank you
time
very
from
much.
space to join us today. Really appreciative. But I think your fellow, spaceman up there, Ifran, is also taking some time from the stars to join us as well. So Ifran, welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure to have you. A little intro, a little background.
Hi, morning everyone. Thanks, Kyle, for the great summary and roundup of what's happening in the industry. Happy to be here in this panel with some great folks, as well as, I want to thank the audience to tune in to this. That said, my name is Irfan. I'm the managing director of Irfan Holdings. I'm also very closely associated in the blockchain space. And on that, I am associated with a blockchain specific fund, Blockcelerate VC. We have Mark over here, who's also part of that. So happy to discuss this topic, which is very near and dear. Thank you.
Absolutely. And there's just so much happening in this space, which is just, it's crazy. We're going to be talking about, this space changes every millisecond. We've lost minutes, we've lost hours, we've lost days. We're on milliseconds here. With that, Brett, welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure to have you. A little intro, a little background for everyone, please.
Sure. Brett Noyce, I guess comparatively, I am on the ground. I'm in the mountains. So I'm in Denver, founder and director of Unventures. We're an early stage investor syndicate with a focus on fintech as well as blockchain. As we originally started out as a fintech focused incubator program called Unbanked Ventures. And prior to that, I got into this space by working with Tim Draper and starting a fintech incubation program kind of in the basement of his space.
Wonderful, wonderful. And welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure. And Jose, welcome to the show as well. A little intro, a little background for everybody, please.
Well, I've been a serial entrepreneur now for more or less than 40 years and a private investor for more or less than 26 years. So it has been quite a roller coaster roadmap along this time. I always have been in two steps in both sides. So as an investor, but also as an entrepreneur. I always say, because it's true, I enjoy much more being an entrepreneur than I enjoy being an investor. And today, I'm looking out for technologies that can converge with what we are doing. And basically, we are looking for what we call business enclosure, because we feel that a lot of people are excluded from starting up a business in a very fast pace. Thank you.
Well, with a space that's moving so fast, excited to hear how you guys are working on that. Lewis, welcome back to the show, my friend. It's always a pleasure to see you. A little intro, a little background.
Always good to see you, Kyle, and a great panel. Just real quick, I'll give you the skinny on me. I've been involved in the world of finance for over a quarter century, been involved in technology a little longer than that. We're involved in AI, AR, VR, blockchain, and this is going to be an interesting topic today. Every show you raise the game, Kyle. So we're looking to raise the game again today. So we're going to get to it. Let's talk about fintech and blockchain.
Thank you so much. It's all you guys. I'm just the air traffic controller. And with that, I'm passing it over to you, Mark. Welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure to have you. Little intro, little background for everybody.
Sure, happy to do this, Kyle. It's good to be back. Always a pleasure to see who you're bringing together. So this is going to be a great conversation. I'll see some familiar faces, some new faces. So I'm looking forward. So Mark Müller-Eberstein out of the Seattle area, recovering Microsoftie, founded a couple of businesses in the last 10 years. Most of them are still around and cash flow positive. And what do you do with cash? You invest. So for about 10 years as well in the investor space, angel investor, member of the Alliance of Angels, of the Swan Group, of the ACA, investing in all kinds of different early stage startups. We're very passionate about helping entrepreneurs. For about the last 5 years, 6 years now, also in the blockchain space, of course, always into technology. I'm a co-managing member of a private investor group called Codex 3. As Irfan mentioned, I'm advisory board of a fund like Accelerate, another one is at the Hut Capital. And I've worked with entrepreneurs in the blockchain space for the last, as I said, 5 years. I think that's when we talked the Pundix founders to Davos the first time. So introducing them to new investors and new contacts and helping them. But yeah, we are always looking out for our entrepreneurs.
Wonderful. And last but not least, Julio, welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure to have you. A little intro, a little background.
Thank you. I must say that last time I was here, Kyle, we used the phrase last but not least with me several times. And I've decided that last and least, especially here, because I feel like, you know, we're investors. We're in New York. We love tech. Personally, I'm a member of the MIT Angels of New York and also the Harvard Business School Angels of New York. And as New York Bay Capital, we have a fund that invests in startups. And of course, we love tech. And by extension, we gotta love anything blockchain related because it's all tech. And fintech applications are very dear to our heart here in what is one of the centers of finance of the world. So we're looking for ideas. We don't know that much. We want to be educated. We want to learn. We have backed several entrepreneurs in the blockchain space. Some hits, some misses. We'll get into that during the discussion. But I'm always in awe of the panel. I'm always in awe of the people that LA puts together. And thank you, Kyle, for hosting. And I look forward not as much to telling you everything I know, but to learning from everyone and hopefully identify within either the panel or some of the people in the audience who may want to send in their, you know, connect after the show, ideas, because we love new ideas.
Absolutely. Well, and with that being said, I do want to dive right in and talk about the current state of where things are with fintech and blockchain. As again, so much has happened in this space, and would love to hear from your views, each of you, on what you're seeing happening in this space. So, Joris, let's come to you first. What are you seeing as the current state of the industry when it comes to fintech and blockchain?
Well, I would say that right now, what we see, especially with the pandemic, is the way people are trying to get money, to get financing. The way they raise funds changed literally because they can't shake hand, which is totally different because before to raise funds you had to meet in person, and also we saw a tremendous trend of people willing to support the service, the product that they love and that they use, and that means that more and more we saw people willing to invest in all those business, and that's a trend that has been absolutely incredible since several months. Obviously, what we were building with Fairmint was basically to address that, to make sure that you can turn your equity anytime into the most powerful community engagement tool, and literally building this new layer on top of equity is probably one of the best way to give back some power, some leverage to funders to use this value, this asset to get financing from their stakeholders directly. So I think it's one of the major trends that we've been seeing since the pandemic started. Yeah.
Wonderful. Ifran, to you, what are you seeing as the current state of fintech and blockchain, also sitting in the middle of both those worlds and some of the activities that you do?
Great. No, thanks, Kyle. So I know that we're going to have a good discussion with all the folks who are here. So I want to more or less focus on an area that's very near and dear to me, essentially the application in the emerging market. And in this case, there are four pillars or four verticals that I'm looking at essentially. One of that is housing, cross-border payments, and supply chain and logistics, and education. So there's four sectors that I'm looking at because at the end of the day, emerging countries are heavily hit by the pandemic itself. Of course, they do not have the necessary infrastructure to handle the global economic aspect that other countries may be much more well equipped to handle. So I would go through those verticals, and because of my background, also I grew up in Bangladesh. I have seen some of the application which resulted me to come into the blockchain industry about a decade ago. So would love to discuss more on that.
Wonderful, and definitely want to come back on that. Brett, to you, what are you currently seeing in the both fintech and blockchain space?
Yeah, so a lot of our work, a lot of the companies we work with are on the more conventional finance fintech side. What we've seen is because of pandemic, banks are finally motivated or have to work quicker. Usually the sales cycle is taking 6 to 18 months. That's been truncated down to 6 or last 3 months. So adoption of fintech is finally starting to happen. So that's one side of it. On the other, kind of the more fringy, as I call it, the blockchain side, right? We've seen the DeFi space blow up. A little over a year ago, I was very excited about that, and I was trying to get some people to invest in that or start to incubate companies. No one really saw that, and leading up even till March, we were working with a company in that space. Couldn't get anyone to return our emails. I dropped them, and then all of a sudden, this DeFi space just blew up, and so. It's interesting. It feels like a bubble. So it feels like there's two sides. It feels like the adoption of fintech is finally starting to really pick up on the bank side, and the DeFi space is just blowing up and is probably frothy and bubbly. But we'll see here in a few months what's still alive.
Well, it's very interesting to Ifran's point, because one of the things I think we tend to forget about when we talk about DeFi, because we're also in it, is decentralized finance, or DeFi. It doesn't just touch this world of emojis, as Mark and I have joked about in the past, but in farming and yield farming and all of the like, but it actually touches many different industries, right? If you look at back office operations for a business, I'm kind of stealing Mark's thunder, so I'll stop in a minute. There's a whole lot of where decentralized finance can play a role, including logistics and supply chains as well. So more to come on that. Jose, to you, current state, what are you seeing?
Well, I see it in a complete different, separate two niches, although they converge at some certain point. Those two niches are the following. First of all, I think that fintech has a lot to give, much more than it has done until now. That's point number one. I don't have seen any radical changes that has disrupted the banking industry so far. What I have seen is improvements and process automation and some, let's say, improvements on the user interface. A lot of the fintech area people don't see, but really it takes place in the security sphere more and more and more. Okay, so people don't talk that much about it, but that's where really let's say the huge improvements are seen. But as said, I think much more will come to the market in the coming 12 months, and we may get some real surprises that I'm expecting that will arise. Let's go to the blockchain. The blockchain has many, many applications. And one of the applications doesn't need to be online. And that's the interesting part. Now, a lot of people don't know, but some governments in the world, they started using a kind of blockchain, which they call the Soft 1 protocol. Okay, and they use it to hash documents. Basically, what they are doing is they are generating a blockchain between those documents, and they can read it afterwards. Now, that's more or less one of the applications. But obviously, where I see that blockchain plays a huge role is becoming a notary for the world. So where do you store permanent data lifetime, right? And that's where blockchain, in my opinion, has a lot to give. I think also that in that area for the next 12 months, we will have quite some nice surprises. And I would leave it like that, and more things will come in the next few questions.
All right, Lewis, to you, current state, what are you seeing?
Had to get to unmute, had to find the little button, so I'm here. I'm going to talk bigger picture. because everyone's kind of like pinpointing certain areas. I look at the big picture with things. When you look at what's happening on Wall Street, in the financial markets, how ETFs are emerging, and you have a lot of ETFs that are focused on fintech. Okay, these ETFs over the past couple of years, they've increased anywhere from 30 to 70%. And this is over the past couple of years. Fintech is on fire. You have Zelle, Venmo, you have Robinhood, you have Coinbase, you have Revolut, you have all these platforms that are giving people access to actually, getting involved in the digital or peer-to-peer or whatever it is, giving them access to that. And there's a big market. And when you have major banks, see, this is giving competition to major banks. So when you have major banks like Citigroup going and backing other fintech companies and investing in them, that's a big thing. JP Morgan has done it. You have other companies that are doing it right now. Just recently in Italy, they merged two of the biggest fintech companies to make close to an $18 billion. It was an $18 billion merger. So these companies are coming together. And when you have Wall Street, shooting out ETFs, exchange traded funds, in order to capitalize on this, it's a big thing. You look at Square. Square, everyone knows what Square is, what it does, and how it is. If you wanted to go and have a poster child, forget about PayPal. PayPal, they own Venmo, they have that stuff. Square, from a startup to where it is right now, went from on a publicly traded level, went from $14 3 years ago to $180 today. Okay, there is an interest from the public markets for that. When you have that, you have investment coming in from the high level to the small level. So this is an opportunity for VCs to get involved in this, and PE to get involved in these companies, help them to grow, entrepreneurs to have an entry point into this, and have something that's going to create a solution to a problem, not just piggybacking on someone else. So that's my big picture on things, and I think it is important, because if you don't know where things are going, how are you going to know where you start? So that's a big thing.
Wonderful.
And
Mark, to you.
Okay.
Mark, there you go.
Knew where the button is, but the mouse was far away. So, okay. Well, I think so. The previous speaker made a couple of good points. I think Jose's mentioning of you really have to look at what's happening in the background of financial institutions. I think that hits it the nail on the head. It's interesting to see, we're working with leaders in the financial industry, like the Fintech Ideas Festival happened in 2017 and 2019. And between those 2 years, the CEOs of the largest financial institutions really embraced the blockchain technology as a tool for their backend mostly. That's definitely happening. I think Wells Fargo mentioned mentioned that they have over 800 active blockchain projects in the background running already, and that was 2019. So I can imagine it only goes forward. Having said that, banks' jobs is to manage the assets of their clients, and we have now a quite large percentage of the at least US population, but also I think in other countries in the world, owning cryptocurrencies and crypto tokens in one or the other way. So banks, I think, will become more and more interested and required to play an active role. I think if you look at Fidelity with their digital asset group, they definitely have experimented in the space. I mean, traditional banks are not known for being extremely innovative, but I think you can see a lot of work in the background happening there as well. We are very bullish on the financial sector in general, I think, as a blockchain investment, but in fintech in general, I think when you look at investment returns for angel investors, they have been actually quite good in the fintech sector. I would say that's a good thing in the blockchain space, but there's the bad and the ugly. The bad includes that you have, the good is that you have access to global teams and global investment opportunities, but it also means you see far more things that haven't been thought through well enough, that are, I would say, shot from the hips, I think what we call it in English here, or in American here, trying to get out there and building something that is probably not sustainable. And then there's the ugly. I mean, we have seen it with the ICOs, we've seen it with the DeFi craze. Those are the people that don't even pretend to, or try to build a business. They try to pretend to put up a website and to get as much cash from people as possible. again, we are very, very clear. We're thinking about long-term. We're thinking about impact of the companies we're investing in. I mentioned PundiX before, which are chugging away for like 3 or 4 years now, active in 30 plus countries. But they are, I think their token is like in the 200 somethings range right now, but they're a real company with real people. We just invested into a Swiss company called Covario. They're probably the best prime brokerage for crypto out there today. And build over 2 years of hard investments building into technologies there. So those are projects we definitely believe in. If the market itself, it's still so small, there's a lot of fluctuation going on. I mean, we see it in the DeFi space. We thought Andre Cronje and Wi-Fi had a lot of potential at $5,000 or $7,000. Well, it went up to $8,000 for the token. So a lot of people now have more money, well, less money in the pockets than before, but it's not lost. It's just in somebody else's pocket. So that's the key issue is trading. Money is not lost. It goes in other people's pockets. And I prefer to have my money here and not with somebody else. And so we'll try to be played careful in all areas. So security is a key thing there as well.
Awesome. Julio, to you.
I'm displaying here the 5 of our portfolio companies, except for Del Monte. With Del Monte, we're working with a supplier of Del Monte. So I don't want to make it sound, although anybody could own Del Monte because it's a publicly traded company. So you could own one share and call it it's in your portfolio. But we're working with a supplier, and we've put money into these other companies that you see there. I think it's relevant to the discussion because the emerging markets point is something that interests us a great deal as well, given that we pride ourselves of our knowledge about Latin America specifically. FIDE, the company there up on my, I guess it's, I don't know if it's my upper left, right. FIDE is a money transfer business, pronounced FIDE, but in Spanish could also be FIDE, which comes from fidelity, from, trust. And FIDE has been operating for many years now. It was one of our very first investments in the space. When we put money into it, we didn't really know what was going to become of it, but it became one of the leading money transfer companies between Europe, particularly Spain, and Latin America. And money transfer is huge. And obviously, blockchain technology is very important in making things not only more reliable, but in many ways more efficient and cheaper. And so they are using it, but not to the extent that we thought they would already be using it by now. When we first started talking to them in 2015 or so, I think it was when we first started, 2014, 2015. But it's the use of blockchain technology in money transfer is clearly, an advantage. It's just that so much work has to be done. From the software perspective, yesterday I was at a meeting where, one of our entrepreneurs basically asked the question of a service provider. We have this great database. What would you recommend? Do you recommend to fiddle with a database and make it more usable from a blockchain perspective, or should we start from scratch? Right? That was the main question. The answer: start from scratch. Now, this was a real blow in the head to our entrepreneur in this meeting, because you've spent so much time, having your databases, building your systems. Legacy is, very important. All of the customer data that could be stored there, and for people to really be saying, that's all very interesting, but it's not going to work well in a new blockchain environment. So you just have to start from scratch. Let's just forget your old database, hire us, and we're going to build a whole new database, right? I think that sometimes when companies, when that's the new reality of the tech, it's a bit daunting and it's expensive and it's going to take time. But we are working with, as I said, with Del Monte in their tracking of their bananas. It's very important to know where any particular banana came from these days. The European market demands that, full transparency. They want to know which farm, what part of the farm, from which country a particular banana came from. And bananas as commodities are rather indistinguishable when you have them in front of you. I don't know if you could, taste one kind from a different kind. And so there's good money there, in part because, I don't know if you've heard, but bananas are prone to suffering this disease, this fungus called the Panama disease. It didn't even operate. It didn't even start in Panama, but someone called it the Panama disease. This disease, if it gets it anywhere into your plantation, will destroy your entire plantation. And you're gonna have talking about starting from scratch. So you have to be able to track if you find one of these pathogens, and they don't represent the problem for humans, but they kill the plant. They kill it way before you have time to ship it from Central America to Europe and North America. So we're using blockchain there in Del Monte. The other couple of logos there, I just encourage you to look them up. We're in those companies. They're doing very interesting things. One of them is a crypto. The other one is a fintech service. And finally, Katla also is a tracking system for inventory for a new form of fashion manufacturing. That's what we're in. And what we've learned is that things take time and could be more expensive to adopt, but the future is fantastic. And eventually we're all going to get to the future where everything can be tracked in terms of origin, and whether it's money or goods or financial services.
Well, we're heading there very quickly, if in some cases already there in others. So I want to come to you guys each on a few other additional items, but Efrain, there was a few topics that you brought up around housing, education, cross-border payments. You wanted to go a level deeper on, and I know, Brett, you had a few as well. Tell us a little bit more about what you're seeing in these industries and these categories and why they're so exciting to you.
Thanks, Kyle. And I'll pick up from where Julio kind of left, essentially on the both the provenance as well as the cross-border payment. And this is, again, as I mentioned, it's very interesting for me. As you may know, Bangladesh essentially has been one of the countries with the success story of one of the largest fintech company called Bcash, which functioned in the country. And there, it's slightly a different position than banking or traditional financial industry. In an emerging economy like that, there is a huge amount of population that's still unbanked. And so fintech services were able to address some of the challenges and the problems associated with that, to the point that today Bcash handles about 70% of the overall national transaction. That is massive for any fintech company. That said, the aspect that we're looking and that I'm personally looking at is further financial instrument through blockchain. So we're talking about crypto lending. So there are direct applications in sectors like that. We've already seen micro lending happening over there, and has significantly improved not only the livelihood of the people, but as a sustainable social economic model that applies in emerging market. In fact, when it comes to emerging market, the playing field and understanding is a little bit different, which is what prompted me to be in the blockchain, because the application of blockchain in a place where the traditional infrastructure, financial infrastructure, digital infrastructure is not in place, the application of the technology is massive. And then the next part of that directly goes to, so if you're looking at financial instrument, you're also looking at what sort of products, right? What you can do. And that relates back to, again, two very integral things that you're looking into the emerging market. One of that is obviously supply chain. And today, considering the pandemic, provenance is a very important aspect that we're talking about. Along with that, when it comes to emerging market, you're looking at, lack of transparency. These are two very strong propositions for, blockchain technology, what they are able to enable. And so they all connect back to create that ecosystem. Similarly, we're talking around the housing, housing or land management. This is a very important area, especially when it comes to people in the developing world, and I'm sure everywhere, security of home, or at least, transparency, or being able to purchase, home is with documentation is very important, and blockchain is able to help that. And it's directly, again, related to cross-border remittance. In terms of statistics, if you look at it, about almost 60%, 60 to 65% of the cross-border remittance that's being remitted from developed countries to developing countries, most of that is spent on purchasing land or houses. And the major problem that's associated with that in places like that is that, land purchase is not transparent. It's a very opaque kind of industry. Even documentation is not necessarily helpful in places like that. So it requires these folks to actually travel from those countries where they're working in. Maybe it's in the Middle East, maybe it's in Europe or here in America, to conduct those transactions. Today, with enablement of blockchain technology in sectors like that, would create a whole new transaction volume when it comes to cross-border remittance in those sectors, where these people who usually travel at least once every 2 years could start making those transactions right now from wherever they are for their home country. So these are sectors that I'm definitely looking at. They're very broad topic. Obviously, it's beyond the capacity to go across that in this program, but happy to touch base and discuss anything else that everyone else brings up. Thanks.
And yeah, thank you. And Mark, pushing you a little bit, what areas of opportunity or gaps are you seeing that people should be focusing on? I mean, we've got non-fungible tokens, so NFTs, we've got digital collectibles, we've got decentralized finance. We have all these areas that are being talked about and are the hit of the month, which will probably be bigger in the coming future. But what are you seeing being on all sides of this as areas of opportunity or gaps that people should be focused on?
Well, if I would say, so the predict the next bubble, it's probably NFTs, non-fungible tokens. So having said that, so it's a good opportunity to lose money in that space as well. So having said that, the technology behind it of tokenizing assets, real world assets, as well as digital assets, I think it's an absolutely important innovation that is happening, and it's going to change how we transact. I think, as Irfan said, there's so much opportunities with this. If you look across the Pacific here, from the Seattle side, we're looking into China, the BSN, the Blockchain Service Network, that is basically creating an infrastructure, not only for the finances, but also for the supply chain, the logistics, the customs area, for the Belt and Road Initiative. Lots and lots of innovation happening there. It's government controlled, it's not decentralized, very different questions, but I think the innovation that is happening and what's in the real world, it is staggering and it creates huge opportunities. Looking out a couple of years, I think we will look back and from 2023, 2024, and we will realize how much the world has changed. And it's changed in how we work together globally, how innovation is driven, how transactions are driven, how value is generated, and where innovation is happening. So just to go back, I think Hester Pierce yesterday at a different panel outlined again her sandbox approach, because she was very clear that the US has to create an environment where innovation is possible. We have to have clarity for entrepreneurs that want to do the right thing, want to build the right infrastructure, to be able to focus on the innovation and not only spending all the money they raise with lawyers to just trying to maybe scrape by. So we really have to think about this with a global perspective while we are acting locally and building our solutions.
Absolutely. And Brett, I wanted to come down to you. I know you had mentioned there was a few items you wanted to talk about on the fintech side. What are you seeing around fintech as areas of opportunities that people should be focused on?
Did I say that? Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I think just in general, like from our other conversations, areas that are near and dear to me are, just financial inclusion. So I think there's more and more opportunity. I think, Irfan was hitting on the point that, with the use of blockchain, there's these really great global opportunities. So what, I see as a potential is that we might see the first like truly global decentralized bank. So that's the big idea that I think, but I think there's also smaller ideas of just cross-border payments, better financial inclusion products that could be built with the technologies that are coming out. So those are my big thoughts. I don't know if I had any other thoughts. Help me out.
That's great. No, it's great. And it leads right into where I wanted to, and that comes to Joris. I mean, Joris, you guys, you and your team at Fairmint have really pushed for the bounds around the future of, we'll summarize it in fintech in general. And I wanted to come to you and see, where are you seeing other areas of opportunity, whether that's around the cafe or other areas that you're just seeing with some of the companies that you work with that people should be focusing on, again, in fintech?
Yeah. What's happening is very interesting, because in the fintech ecosystem, we see two trends. The first one is like pushing the optimization of what exists in the traditional finance, and we see tremendous success on this end. And we also see this entire ecosystem that is bridging the DeFi, the decentralized finance, with the traditional finance, respecting the rules, trying to fit with all the regulation. And I can, the person just before was mentioning the decentralized bank. We start to see that. I mean, a company like Multis, typically what they are building is the business banking, and they are bridging both the decentralized world with your dollar account or your euro account. And that is awesome. We also see a huge trend behind the stable coins. And what's happening today with the stablecoin is absolutely amazing, because that's what was missing. And this missing part is now not missing anymore. And that means that we can start to build something that is way different, that is that completely blend and hide the blockchain. Just like the cloud computing was not seen before by users 10, 15 years ago. But those companies, they were not cloud computing companies, but they were using this tech to literally bring a new user experience, a new way of working using this software as a service. Well, we can consider that today the blockchain is this new tech that lots of companies will rely on. And as soon as you start to have this banking ecosystem that is coming with Multis, the accounting that is fixed by companies like Gilded, for example, Gilded Finance today, you just put your wallet address and you have access to it just like you would have in your bank account. You have all the detail, all the transaction, everything. You can export that, connect it to your QuickBooks. And that is awesome, because it fixed one of the major pain for many CFOs willing to use the blockchain tomorrow for their transaction. We also have like this new passwordless wallet like Magic, previously Fortmatic. This is amazing. You just put your email, you have a password access to your wallet. And if you decide to play and to use that in your UX as a company, like what we are doing with Fairmint, you won't even see that it's a portfolio in blockchain. You will only see a new portfolio on your UI. And as a user, it seems that you are still in the traditional finance, but you are not. You already jumped in the decentralized finance. And so that is also a major trend. And I was talking about stablecoin because stablecoins are literally what helps us to do that. When you talk to someone that doesn't know about Ethereum, about MetaMask, and all the friction that happens, but you start to talk about USD or USD coin, well, you unlock many things in the way of thinking for many people. And then if you work and you polish your UX, your UI to bring them a really neat product where they won't see this friction at all. They just take their credit card and through MoonPay, Wire, all those mechanisms that are embedded, they will pay in USD, and they would see in their magic that they have what USDC, but you can even call it a USD because it's 1-1, and then they can start to buy securities in any companies that is willing to use this kind of mechanism. And this is awesome. This is awesome. What's happening today is absolutely amazing.
So, quick question for you, Joris. I just had this from the audience. I think it's an interesting question for you as to your comment, and maybe Mark has a thought around this too. Is stablecoin. So, why need more than one? You know, if USDC, for instance, if that works, why would you need more than one stablecoin?
Well,
Yeah.
so like always, adoption will matter. So right now we see lots of crypto people using the USDT. We see lots of, let's say, traditional ecosystem that are trying to go with the USDC that is pushed by Circle and Coinbase. So it's known, you know, in the US. And obviously we start to see some other stablecoin, but the goal is more like how can you remove this scare, the fact that people are scared that they will be dependent on all the fluctuation of the crypto. They don't want that. They want to make sure that if they put $1, the value of what they get to jump in the decentralized finance is also $1. If 1 hour later it's only 10 cents, that's how they are scared. So stablecoins are really needed. Who will win the stablecoin war? I don't know. Probably government will succeed to constrain many people to switch to a specific digital currency for them. But until that is not existing, well, stablecoin are the only way to bridge. Yeah.
Well, and we won't decide that here, but Mark, any further comments on that as well?
Just seconding a lot of the things Joris just said. I think stable coins are required and necessary in a system. They will remove a lot of friction still. I think I'm also with him that governments are starting to, or they have understood, some governments faster than others, the potential of electronic money and a stable coin pegged to their currency, at least for administrative purposes. I mentioned the BSN and the electronic RMB before. And then in the for the rest of us, we have competition. I think it will be decided by adoption, as Joris mentioned, but also usability and eventually trust. Do I really trust that I get my dollar back or the value back that I've put in there? I mean, we have looked at and worked with Maker and the DIET stable for a long time because we see the necessity, and we would love to see something that is decentralized, community organized, really being a cornerstone of a decentralized global financial system eventually. So I think that's definitely an area we can see it going. I mean, the pegging to US dollar makes sense as it's probably the last fiat currency that will go. So eventually we might see stable coins pegged to the Bitcoin at the back end, and it might be a government issued token, who knows? But 5 years and we'll look back and see what's happening.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both. And gentlemen, as we are coming to the top of the hour, I want to make sure everyone gets in their closing thoughts and other opportunity areas that they see. So Julio, let's start with you. What areas of additional areas of opportunity are you starting to see in the fintech and blockchain space? And then also, where can everyone find you online as we come to close here?
It's impossible. There's really areas of opportunity everywhere. We've seen really good plans on insurance. The whole idea of insuring assets, you know, is prone to innovation. Of course, you know, stable coins pegged to something make a lot of sense. Stable coin paid to a fiat is almost a contradiction, because the whole point of crypto is to try and get out of the fiat world. But governments are a real roadblock. But I could see in the future a stable coin tied to the S&P 500, right? Or to some other asset that is still a US type of linked asset, I think that the US government would allow the concept of having, a coin tied to something else other than one-on-one to the US dollar as something very valid. So you could be paying in S&P 500 coin, or gold, or barrels of oil, or other sort. I think there's feature there because you can more or less count on the government being at least open to discuss it. But let's just try to keep investing in things that one way or the other are going to make things more efficient financially.
Absolutely.
And the way to reach me is my email is julio@nybaycapital.com. Our website is nybaycapital.com. We're very easy to reach, and we always promise a response. And if we can't help you, whether with money or with advice, we probably know someone who would. And today I made a few more friends that I'll refer if necessary.
Wonderful. Thank you. Jose, to you, quick closing thoughts, and where can everyone find you online?
I would like to target one very specific important point because it was not discussed here very fast. So the world economy more or less is 142 trillion, okay? And it only works because it's based on one single word, and it's called faith. That's why it works. If nobody would have faith in whatever coin it is, doesn't matter if it's cryptocurrency or if it's a fiat money, and they are not able to have buying power to the future, because that's the only purpose it has, in effect, besides the exchange, then nobody would accept any type of cryptocurrency or fiat money or whatever it is. So the way I look at it is that something new will show up, because digital money was already present before the cryptocurrencies. The problem is that everybody wants to get it decentralized, which makes sense. But the issue behind this decentralization is that so many things happened that people don't understand. The majority doesn't understand how to manage these tokens in a very easy way. So those are my thoughts. I think there is a lot to be done in that space. By the way, the business transactions is $86 trillion. So it consumes more or less a little bit more than half of the whole world economy today. So if we talk about money, right, then my focus is definitely in the business area. That's why I'm looking to, and I'm also looking to see what is the next big thing that will become the standard for making these transactions closing. And it may not be a cryptocurrency, and it may not be a fiat money. It may be something completely new.
Wonderful.
Now,
where can everyone find?
You can find me on LinkedIn, which is the medium that I use most. And either you go to BizMoney, BIZMONE, and you search me up, or Jose Graca on BizMoney on the LinkedIn, and happy to connect always. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Louis, to you, areas of opportunity quickly, and where can everyone find you online?
We'll make this real quick because you have a lot of people on the panel. Regulation, and as far as having a singularity and currency, I don't know where things are going to go, because you have when you have governments involved, there's going to be a lot of blockage because nobody wants to give up that power, because that's the power. You can't, you're not going to see that anytime soon. Blockchain, as far as logistics, someone was mentioning that. I think that's important too, and you're going to see a rise of that too, to see where everything is. And just in closing, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can go to fjpartners.com, find out more about me, and you can listen to my show, Money Never Sleeps, where I'm going to actually take the time to talk about all this stuff today, and you'll get to hear my voice for about a half hour. You can check me out on iHeartRadio and Apple and Google and everything else.
That's huge. Definitely, everybody, definitely check out that show as well. And Brett, to you, quick closing thoughts, if anything left, and where can everyone find you?
Yeah. So I'll just start with what you shouldn't do. Don't create Me Too. I feel like there's enough stable coins. I was happy to hear that answer on why the ones exist. I think a year ago, liquidity was a big issue, that it was a problem in the system. So just in general, and now the DeFi space is blown up. So, but really be thinking about what are the problems. Like instead of trying to create Me Too products, think about what needs to be built next, and you'll hopefully be the big winner in a year or so from now. And really, I'd say focus on like the kind of the unsexy areas of reg tech, KYC, AML are big issues, and trust is like an underlying piece that's keeping the masses from entering here. So really be thinking about building in that space. I can be found at brnoyce@unventures.co and on LinkedIn, Brett Noyce.
Wonderful, thank you. Joris, where can everyone find you online to continue the conversation?
Yeah, so the simplest way is probably on Twitter, Joris_DLN, or directly on Fairmint also. And you can go and right now check what we've been building with Fairmint on fairmint.co. If you want to support what we are building, basically you can go and you can start and literally check all the investment platform that exist for Fairmint and that many customers are willing to deploy on their website and on their digital real estate to use the cafe as their new way of getting fundraising. And so, yeah, anytime, Twitter is probably the best way to ping me.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you. Mark, to you, quick closing thoughts, anything left, and then where can everyone find you to continue the conversation?
Perfect. The finding one, I'll put this up here. Here we go. Mark M. Eberstein at Twitter. That's the easiest way. And I am Twitter addicted apparently, so I'm there all the time. Key thoughts, be careful with your money. Having said that, huge opportunities in the blockchain space in general. And I think just seconding what Brett said earlier, build products that are actually solving a need that hasn't been solved so far, and do it quickly. I mean, if you're, what somebody else says, if your version 1 doesn't make you embarrassed, you haven't shipped it fast enough, but keep on it and get better and better. And yeah, if you do that, let us know, and we're happy to look into it and see how we can help you.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Mark. Efron, close us out. Any last thoughts, and then where can everyone find you online?
Thanks, Kyle, and thanks everyone for this fantastic panel, and thanks for the audience to tune in. First, I'll say that you can reach me at Twitter at @semperirfan or through LinkedIn. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to take a different point of view in this when it comes to government. I feel like that we have been tippy-toeing around this for a very long time when it comes to blockchain. And the reason I'm saying this is because I've been in this industry for about a decade. About 10 years ago, I started working with, and I was part of a task team with the Monetary Authority of Singapore to work around the fintech, as well as implementing blockchain and the regulatory frameworks. Of course, Singapore was able to take the steps, and it was supposed to be a model. And part of the reason that I got involved in that space was that how that goes to other countries. But that didn't happen. And it's 10 years now and still not happening. My thought is that incumbents are not going to be the change maker, neither they're going to drive the change. I mean, that hasn't happened anywhere. If you look at the telecommunication industry, if you look at the internet industry, and so trying to make them understand or show me enough example how this works, that's not going to work. You want to get some example, you start looking at it. And for that, I want to give kudos to the state of Wyoming to take this initiative. And so that said, what I would say is that, and what Mark mentioned also, that of course, as investors as well as individual investor, be careful with your money, because there's a whole lot of noise around the industry. But at the same time, there are folks who are trying to solve real problems, and this is where it's important, right? If you are able to solve the real problem there, game on, because there's so much opportunity that, as Julio has mentioned, that that you can pretty much hammer down in each of these industries. So that's kind of like my closing thought. And again, as I say, government-led project as well as digital currency may not be successful. We have seen that with the petrodollar from Venezuela. I'm sure people are going to say that, oh, it's Venezuela. But if you look in other countries, how successful have they been in implementing certain things? So just keep an eye out, try to make those change. And as an entrepreneur, I would say that go head on and try to solve the problem, because if you can hit the consumers, if you can touch their pain points, you've solved the problem. Everything else is gonna, fit right in. So thank you, and thanks everyone.
Wonderful. And thank you all again very much for sharing your thoughts and insights today. To you, our audience, if you like what you heard, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Do reach out if you'd like to be on a show like today. Thank you, Louis. We'd love to have you as an investor to share your thoughts and insights along with what's happening in different industries and regions around the world. Thank you, Julio. Thank you, Efrain. Also, as entrepreneurs, if you'd like to be on a show like today to pitch us as investors in the fintech blockchain space or in other industries, please do reach out. We'd love to have you on our virtual stage here at VCTV to do just that. And a big thank you to the LATOKEN team and to Emmanuel for making VCTV possible every single day. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott, and we'll be back here in just a short little break with more episodes of VCTV. Everyone take care. Have a great day.